As the ongoing war in Ukraine has shown, drones have become an inescapable part of modern warfare, and it has become impossible to imagine a future conflict without them. Throughout history, humans have launched all manner of objects into the skies above, but some of the first attempts at doing so in a controlled manner occurred during the First World War. Hoping to break the stalemate on the front lines through long-ranged aerial bombardment, the United States Army worked on a device known as the Kettering Bug, an unmanned aerial torpedo considered to be the forerunner of the modern cruise missile. Various militaries would continue experimenting with unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs, throughout the first half of the 20th century. Notably, the British and American Air Forces developed several radio-controlled drones that were used as targets to train anti-aircraft gunners. Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy also made use of several radio-guided vehicles, with the Germans in particular introducing vehicles like the Argus 292 into active service. By the Cold War, unmanned UAVs were increasingly used to conduct reconnaissance missions over hostile territory. The desire to use drones for such missions increased dramatically after the downing of a manned U-2 spy plane over the Soviet Union in 1960. During the Vietnam War, drones such as the Ryan Model 147 Lightning Bug were used extensively for reconnaissance and as decoys that drew attention away from manned aircraft. Overall, it's estimated that drones conducted over 3,000 flights throughout the Vietnam War. Israel also made extensive use of UAVs during their numerous conflicts throughout the 1960s and 1970s, with drone reconnaissance playing a pivotal role in their success against Egypt and Syria. The latter half of the 20th century saw drones such as the AIRQ-2 Pioneer used for reconnaissance by the U.S. during the Gulf War. Notably, the Gulf War marked the first instance of human soldiers surrendering to an unmanned platform. Drones were also used during the air campaign over Iraq as decoys, tricking Iraqi air defenses into switching on their radars, which were then locked onto by radar-seeking missiles launched from coalition aircraft. Soon, however, drones no longer needed crewed aircraft for lethal assistance. On February 16, 2001, the U.S. Air Force successfully launched its first drone-mounted Hellfire missile over a bombing range in Nevada. This marked the first time that a reusable UAV was offensively armed and marked a turning point in drone warfare. The U.S.-led War on Terror marked the start of modern drone warfare. Drones went from doing recon to providing close air support in missions across Afghanistan and Iraq. It was during the War on Terror that the drone also gained a measure of infamy, thanks to its extensive use in precision strikes on specific targets believed to be of strategic significance. The lack of any pilots on board effectively removed the human risk factor, which in turn greatly reduced the diplomatic risk of a mission. These two advantages work together to allow global actors such as the United States to use drones much more brazenly than manned aircraft. From the 2000s to the 2010s, drones were usually used by stronger conventional powers on much weaker opponents. However, in the Second Nagorno-Karabakh War of 2020 showed how UAVs could be used in a war between opponents of more equal power. In this conflict, both Armenia and Azerbaijan had UAVs, but Azerbaijan stood out by using their drones more aggressively, especially the Turkish Bayraktar TB2. These drones were used very effectively against Armenian armor and artillery, helping further tip the conflict's balance in Azerbaijan's favor. Importantly, Azerbaijan's success in this war proved that UAVs could be successfully deployed against opponents with relatively modern air defenses. However, even though drones were highly effective, the conflict in Nagorno-Karabakh did not prove that they were capable of winning conventional wars by themselves. Azerbaijan's superior military meant that drones only reinforced existing advantages. Armenian air defense strategy was arguably poorer and could have performed better under different leadership. And most importantly, the use of drones did not eliminate the need for ground combat, as Azeri forces still took relatively heavy losses. Big thanks to the sponsor of today's video, War Thunder, the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. Play more than 2,000 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships in dynamic combined arms PvP battles, all for free on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. Every vehicle is incredibly detailed and modeled down to their individual components, offering a highly immersive combat experience. Choose from War Thunder's incredible arsenal of tanks, such as the Tiger II, aircraft such as the P-38 Lightning, and even helicopters and ships spanning over 100 years of development from the 1920s to the present day. I especially like the in-depth vehicle customization system that allows you to apply camouflage, historical markings, and 3D decorations anywhere on your machines. Play for free today using our link in the description and join over 50 million players from all around the world. For a limited time, new and returning players who haven't played in the last 6 months will receive a bonus pack with premium vehicles, premium account time, a free vehicle decorator, and much more. No purchase necessary. Simply use our link to register, download, and play War Thunder today. The Nagorno-Karabakh War provided a case study on drone warfare between peers in conventional war. But neither Armenia or Azerbaijan could be considered global superpower. But when Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the world was exposed to the full force of modern drone warfare. Once again, drones showed their effectiveness against modern air defenses. During the Russian push to Kiev, Ukraine released video footage of TB2 drones destroying Russian armor and even surface-to-air missile launchers. However, like the Armenians, poor Russian strategy during the opening weeks played a key role in Ukrainian successes. In fact, as the war dragged on, Russian air defenses changed their tactics, leading to the almost complete withdrawal of TB2Ls from close air support missions. Now, large Ukrainian drones, such as the TB2, are used primarily for reconnaissance missions and kept out of range of Russian air defenses. The TB2 and other large drones are hardly the only UAVs available to Russia and Ukraine. Although small, commercially available drones have been converted into weapons of war as early as 2016. The war in Ukraine has seen these cheap drones used on a scale never before seen. Compact UAVs are often used to provide reconnaissance at a tactical level, as well as for limited offensive actions, like having grenades attached to them for use as an improvised bomber. These drones' size and profile make them hard to detect with traditional air defense radars programmed to track larger targets. Their quantity and ease of production also mean that these drones are easily replaced, with the munitions used to shoot down these drones sometimes being more expensive than the drone itself. Of the methods to combat small drones, the most effective so far has been electronic warfare, which can unscramble the GPS of the drone or cut it off from its operator. In Ukraine, electronic warfare, along with other techniques, leads to the loss of up to 10,000 Ukrainian drones per month. However, these drones are so cheap that Ukraine just buys more. The war in Ukraine has seen the use of drones on a previously unheard of scale. Thousands of metallic warriors struggle in the skies and seas of the embattled nation, and it seems like every day brings a new story of the creative use of UAVs. But the war in Ukraine, groundbreaking as it is, only scratches the surface of drones' potential in future conflicts. On the sea too, drones have made themselves increasingly present on the Ukrainian battlefield. Ukrainian sea drones have conducted numerous attacks on Russian warships and ports, and are alleged to have been behind the most recent damaging of the Kerch Strait Bridge between Russia and Crimea. With the tragic ending of the Black Sea Grain Initiative, seaborne drones will likely become an even bigger fixture in this ongoing conflict. Perhaps the most significant area of future drone development is artificial intelligence, or AI. When applied to modern drones, AI has proven capable of following basic commands, but it is not as successful as adapting to new threats or considering larger strategic concerns. The first truly autonomous drones will likely take on a surveillance role, as this is far less risky and politically fraught than arming an autonomous drone with weapons and empowering it to carry out strike missions. The first autonomous drones will likely not operate fully outside of human control. The United States, for example, has committed to keeping humans involved in any decision to take life. Reassurances aside, it might prove difficult to limit the use of AI in tomorrow's drones. Some experts have envisioned a not-so-distant future where quick-thinking, AI-powered drones could rapidly overwhelm a nation's nuclear launch capabilities. With humans being too slow to react, some fear that nations might place their nuclear weapons in the hands of AI, taking the destruction of humankind out of human hands. This situation isn't necessarily likely, but it illustrates some of the potential risks of unchecked artificial intelligence in drones. Deeply related to AI, another direction of drone development is the swarming. Modern drone swarms are nothing more than remote-operated UAVs acting in formations, but a proper drone swarm could use artificial intelligence to allow individual drones to behave autonomously while also coordinating its actions with the larger group. If used effectively, these swarms could prove incredibly lethal. A swarm of tiny drones could travel over a wide area, making them almost impossible to detect. Then, too quickly for anyone to react, these undetected drones could converge at the last minute and overwhelm a target through sheer numbers. Through their use of AI, swarms would be able to react to threats without human intervention, meaning that human operators would simply assign a target, and the swarm would take care of the rest. Over 100 original videos can be found on our website, AATV. Use code DRONA50 for 50% off your first month. China is currently speculated to lead the world in swarming technology. Chinese research and development has been able to field swarms of up to 1,000 drones, though only for non-combat aerial shows. Experts believe that these swarms are being designed to overwhelm American command centers in the South China Sea, potentially giving China a crucial advantage in the opening stages of any potential move on Taiwan. Despite future technological advances, it's unlikely that a ChatGPT-controlled drone swarm will completely replace humans in future conflicts. In fact, drones and humans will likely work closer together than ever before. The concept of manned-unmanned pairing envisions a human pilot controlling both a crewed aircraft and several drones that will function as extensions of the aircraft's capability. The U.S. military is currently experimenting with having Apache helicopter pilots control Gray Eagle drones, which could be used as an extension of the Apache's weapon system and allow for the destruction of targets much further away than currently possible. The U.S. Air Force's next-generation Air Dominance Fighter, or NGAD, is likely to take this concept even further. Rather than a traditional fighter aircraft, the NGAD fighter might be closer in size to a modern bomber and act as a mobile drone control center, with many of its offensive weapons carried by UAVs surrounding the aircraft. The larger size of the aircraft, as well as its personal squadron of drones, will give the U.S.'s sixth-generation fighter the range necessary to effectively fight over the Pacific Ocean and the South China Sea. A sees as a future battleground. Beneath future skies, drones are also expected to play larger roles on the sea and land. On land specifically, drones could find use as pack animals of sorts. Current products are either too noisy or not mobile enough, but in the future, these autonomous drones could accompany squads of infantry and greatly increase their carrying capacity. Since the infantry of the future is expected to carry ever-increasing loads, this assistance could prove vitally important. At sea, drones will likely be used for mine clearance and submarine detection, but may also serve more sinister purposes. Already, Russia has claimed that it has manufactured an unmanned nuclear torpedo that could allegedly be used to unleash radioactive tidal waves on coastal cities, though the effectiveness and even the existence of this weapon is disputed. Despite the inevitable advance of drone technology, especially in the air, the impact of drones on future conflicts is far from certain. While TB2Os have knocked out Russian air defenses and thousands of disposable drones swarm the battlefields of Ukraine, it would be hasty to assume that drones will fundamentally alter all future conflicts. Modern air combat is characterized by a sort of hide-and-seek between aircraft and air defenses, with the aircraft trying to avoid enemy air defenses, and air defenses trying to find enemy aircraft. Drones, influential as they are, do not radically alter this equation. Drones may be less vulnerable to certain air defenses at certain times, but they're not invincible. As more and more states acquire drones, more and more states will also acquire the means to counter them. The hide-and-seek of modern air combat will continue much as it did before. Additionally, while cheap UAVs can provide many benefits of a traditional air force, they do not offer all of the capabilities that traditional, more expensive aircraft can. Small, short-range drones simply cannot compete on the same level as long-range strategic aircraft, which remain expensive and hard to acquire. While drones will certainly lead to an increase in the number of aircraft in the sky and will provide smaller nations with capabilities they didn't have before, don't expect a fleet of Radio Shack UAVs to shoot down the entire U.S. Air Force. One way that drones will likely alter the future of war has to do with their implications for airspace sovereignty. Since many countries view using drones as less aggressive than the deployment of manned aircraft, formally contested airspaces may become more aggressively challenged. For example, South Korea views manned flights over the contested areas of the Korean peninsula to be too risky, but has suggested that it would be willing to conduct missions in the area using unmanned aircraft. Similarly, India has already started using drones along the line of contact with Pakistan in Kashmir. This type of airspace contestation raises the question of whether we could walk the tightrope into a conflict that could have been avoided. Combat drones have a history that stretches back over 100 years, but it is only in the 21st century that we've begun to see full-fledged drone warfare come into its own. Despite the seemingly endless ways that drones have been utilized in modern conflicts, such as the one in Ukraine, drone warfare will certainly become even more complex and even more deadly over our lifetime. Nevertheless, drones are not guaranteed to fundamentally alter the course of all future conflicts, and significant risks remain in their unrestricted utilization. So, will drones be present in the future of war? Almost certain. But will drones be the future of war? Only time will tell. Thank you again to War Thunder for sponsoring today's video. Support our channel and use our link in the description to download the game, get your exclusive bonus, and play War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox.